Neither Ed nor I were expecting to like Delhi as much as we did. One of my absolute favourite places was definitely the Lotus Temple. It was very low down on my list of priorities to see in Delhi, but we went anyway because it was so close to where we were staying that it would have been silly not to visit. Oh my word. I cannot emphasize enough how absolutely incredibly beautiful and peaceful it is there. It's a Baha'i house of worship where everybody is welcome. There's no discrimination in any way, shape or form. It was an absolutely awesome experience for me. It touched and wrapped itself around the root of who I am. Now when I think about the Lotus Temple, I can still feel the connection very powerfully. A place of such immense tolerance in a tumultuous world. Let me read this to you. When it is not possible to educate all one's children, daughters receive preference over sons, as mothers are the first educators of the next generation. Someone understands the importance of women.
We then went to the Hare Krishna Revenue Collection Centre, which was given a very cursory glance and then departed from with alacrity. At 73 meters high, Qutub Minar is the tallest brick minaret in the world. It and the surrounding monuments are actually a UNESCO World Heritage Site. In 1200, construction was started by some cat called Qutb al-Din Aibak. How's that for a name? It was eventually finished by his son-in-law about 20 years later. The stonework is incredibly impressive and in places very heavily embellished. And get this, contains no mortar. It's all made out of interlocking blocks. This little pearl of wisdom, amongst many others, was imparted to us by our not-so-free tour guide, who told us initially that he was free. Consequently, he grudgingly got what must have been the smallest tip of his entire career.
We visited Old Delhi and spent a good few hours bumping our way through Chandni Chowk on a bicycle rickshaw. Chandni Chowk gets 7 million visitors every day. Just let that sink in. Think about it. 7 million. I don't even know how to comprehend that many people in one place. Chandni Chowk refers to the moonlit canals that used to run through the old marketplace, and I think that might have been rather romantic. Maybe it was once upon a time, but now it's a hive. It's a warren, it's a nest. It's teeming with a cross-section of lives. Holy cows lazily wandering past a man, wearily manhandling a cart piled full of nachis. His sole purpose to sell enough to feed his family for one more day. The inevitable tourist on a bicycle rickshaw, whiplash curious, mesmerized by the heady sensory overload. Chandni Chowk is a maze, and amazing. Each section is dedicated to a certain commodity. So you've got the spice market, which is a few kilometers long and occupies both sides of a very wide street and all the little alleyways in between. The air is thick with a choking sense of various spices, chilies and peppercorns and cardamom and cinnamon, fennel, coriander, and quite a few that we don't recognize. It was a photographer's dream. I could have spent 2 hours just in that section, but our driver had more to show us as he pedaled us through the narrow alleys overhung by a death trap of electric wires that looked more convoluted than a dozen doped-up spider webs. We passed the shoe sellers, the opticians, the pharmacies, the pottery stalls, and lastly he took us on a whirlwind trip of colours and sparklies. I thought I must have died and gone to heaven. So much of colour, so much of colour. I managed to get a couple of really blurry photos as we flashed past, but I think that you might be able to get the idea. There are 1 or 2 decent photographs that I managed to pick up as well. These are the bridal streets, and they are awash with intricately decorated everythings. And since marriage season, not wedding season as was politely pointed out, falls between February and March, the traders were a bustle with customers.
Chandni Chowk originally formed part of Shah Jahan's capital city known as Shah Jahanabad. Chandni Chowk itself was designed by Shah Jahan's daughter, Jahanara Begum. The area also contains one of the largest mosques in India, the Jama Masjid, which in its courtyard alone can accommodate 25,000 worshippers. We didn't really explore it very thoroughly as time was not on our side.
Then we were out in the relative sanity of the wider streets, and our driver insisted that we visit his cousin brother around the corner, who has the best cashmere shawls in the world, if ma'am would just like to look. Ma'am would not like to look, thank you. But looking costs nothing, ma'am. Nothing except my time, and I want to see other things. The trip was concluded shortly thereafter, and the last few moments were spent in sullen silence. Escaping the clutches of the rickshaw man, we caught a tuk-tuk to Jantar Mantar. There are about 4 Jantar Mantars dotted around India. We had decided against visiting the one in Jaipur as we had a limited daily allowance, and that was a bit pricey. But to our delight, the Jantar Mantar in Delhi was well within the budget. This place is extraordinary. I don't know why we didn't learn about this at school. It was built in 1723, and it is something to do with astronomical tables and the predicting of times and movements of suns and moons and planets. It is unbelievable. Each structure has a specific purpose, and I got a headache just trying to decipher the descriptions. Maybe one day someone clever can explain the mind-blowing concepts to me.
We walked from Jantar Mantar to a stepwell known as Agrasen Ki Baoli, and we very nearly walked right past it. There was just this tiny little gate in a stone wall, and we saw someone who looked touristy walking through it, so we followed them, and we walked into this amazing stepwell. I was very impressed, quite sort of awestruck by it. The idea behind the stepwell is that no matter how low the water gets, you can always get to it. You just have more steps to walk down. Down either side are all of these sort of niches where people would congregate, I suppose. And the crazy thing is, you look up and you're looking at modern skyscrapers. Nobody knows exactly how old this one is, but it might date back to the 10th century. And when you're standing there, you just get the sense of these successive generations of people who would have come here, and you can almost hear them speaking. It was very cool. Kim had her sort of spiritual moment at the Lotus Temple, but something about this well and just the sense of history inherent in it just really struck a chord with me, and I didn't want to leave. It was a very humbling place. Not that it was the most impressive thing we saw, there was just a real sense of history to it, which I really enjoyed. I think that what it was about this place was that it was not meant to be a monument. It wasn't constructed in honor of some great ruler as a homage to his conquests or whatever. It was just a utilitarian building built for a specific practical purpose, which was used by common people. And I think that's what appealed to me. It was just part of everyday life in Delhi for a very long time. And when you were standing at the bottom of that well looking up at the construction, you felt that.
Delhi reminded me vaguely of Harare, the city of my birth. Echoes and remnants of the same colonistic powers, perhaps? Ed was put in mind of our capital city, Tshwane, for very similar reasons. Everyone keeps telling me that you need to read the book Shantaram if you want to understand India. As someone who has not yet read Shantaram, I cannot confirm nor deny that statement. What I can tell you with absolute certainty is that if you want a very good indication of what you'll find in Delhi, then you must read the book by William Dalrymple called The City of Djinns. William Dalrymple immersed himself in Delhi's culture and history, living there for a year whilst doing research for his book. He was determined to find pieces of each of the 7 ancient and lost cities of Delhi. The conquerors of old were either too arrogant to be bothered to tear down the previous occupant cities, or they were impressed enough with the structures to leave them standing, so they just built their cities next to the old ones. The result is that modern high-rise Delhi is riddled with ancient ruins of forts, havelis, baolis, markets, you name it, in various stages of disrepair. The most recently vanquished foe, the British, too have left their mark. However, their buildings are largely still in use. Ed and I made our way rapidly along the streets of the rather trendy little village of modern Haus Khas, with its art galleries, hip-hop clothing boutiques, hotspot restaurants and happening nightclubs, and through a gateway that could pass as a real-life entrance onto platform 9 3/4 into the magical, bygone era of ancient Haus Khas. We wandered through the ruins of some lovely medieval monuments surrounding a placid lake where young lovers stroll hand in hand and students sit on crumbling walls to take a break from the madness that is modern Delhi.
It's about 6:15 on Thursday evening, and we're in, believe it or not, the middle of New Delhi. In a park. In a park on the outskirts of which are some ruins of one of the many cities which existed in Delhi before its modern incarnation. This one dates back to the 11th century. This area is called Haus Khas, and this is like a hangout spot for young people. When I say these are ruins, they really are ruins. We actually got a little bit lost in there just now. It took us about an hour to figure out how to actually come down here to the bottom level, where you have this nice little lake that sort of meanders around to the other side. Oh, it's a very nice little park. There's like a little trim park thing and some fitness stuff and lots of people about and kids and dogs and couples, and it's all very rustig and gezellig. And there's Kim Lee. Hello. And we've spent the day, well, all of today and all of yesterday going around Delhi. We were going to do a hop-on, hop-off bus thing, but then we realized that the taxis and tuk-tuks in Delhi are really quite cheap, so we just did our own thing. And we have seen a lot of sights in 2 days, and I've got to say, Delhi is really not a bad city. It's much cleaner, much friendlier, with a lot more open spaces like this, much better town planning, at least New Delhi, than, for example, Mumbai. It's not so hectic, not that like frenetic pace that Mumbai has. Look, it's not Cape Town. You can't stand still because you'll get knocked over, but yeah, it's really not a bad place. It's quite nice. I was very, very surprised by how much I've enjoyed New Delhi. We went into the old part of the city today, which was very interesting, area called Chandni Chowk, which is an absolute warren. There are places where you can't even see the sky because the buildings are so close together. It's just a jumble of shops and it's crazy. And this is the end of the day, and well, we're pretty much knackered, and I think this is going to be it, and head off back. Our guest house is probably about I'm hoping no more than about 20 minutes drive away from here. And yeah, I think early supper and off to bed, because yeah, we've been very busy little bees today. But yeah, it's been fun. We've enjoyed Delhi. I wasn't expecting to, but yeah, Delhi has been unexpectedly pleasant. Hello, Kim Lee.
Hello.
Right, and that's us.